What's up, I'm Markus with Fallen Hour, and I'm excited to announce the launch of our Halloween series, which includes new music by After Horizons, guest appearances by Wayward Souls Paranormal, and art by Faraway Fine Art. You're watching Fallen Hour's Urban Legends.
The origins of Fallen Hour's Urban Legends starts here. This painting. This painting had caught my eye and has been in the possession of Fallen Hour for over a year. Originally painted by Zachary Dean Faraway of Faraway Fine Art, this painting has been the center of Fallen Hour's attention for the past year and a half. I had met Zach at an art show, and this painting sat in the middle of all of his other art pieces, which were seemingly surrounded by Native American culture. This painting seemed out of the ordinary. It seemed unique, dark, different. I had asked Zach about this painting, and he had told me a strange story about it. He said I'd taken this down to a reservation for an art show, and it was sitting just like it is now, out in the open, surrounded by all this other artwork. And this old woman approaches me. She seems to be an elder of this reservation that we were currently sitting on at this art show. She gets aggravated with me and points and starts pointing at the painting and speaking in her native language. It turns out that on that reservation there was an urban legend. Deer women. After hearing this story, we have decided to launch this series. Welcome to Fallen Hour's Urban Legends.
Get the fucking tool shit out of here.
But the thing we're talking about tonight is an urban legend that has been basically rooted in Native American lore since basically before anybody documented anything, possibly. Possibly most of the stories are probably more passed down from generation to generation.
Well, that's basically how it worked in Native American culture. Nothing was written down. It was always
word of mouth.
Storytellers.
Oral
and
historians.
that's how they passed everything down, was through stories.
And that's one of the cool things about getting into like Native American, like their history. Their history has always been word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of cool to see something like Deer Woman incorporated into a lot of Native Americans' history.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's all over the country, ain't it?
Yeah, it actually is. It's it's pretty interesting. It's like literally almost nationwide. It's not just I thought it was just one tribe,
Mm-hmm.
but when I started actually researching and looking into it, it is literally almost every tribe.
Yeah, I remember when I was young, the old women and stuff warning you, don't hang out at the river at night. I was like, why? That was my first experience with deer woman, and really until we started getting involved with you guys, I hadn't even thought of it in a long time, and I started remembering that when we were kids.
I've never heard about it until I went to Idaho when I was in, I think it was Lapaway, Idaho, when I was really young. And I started hearing that. Like, around here, I heard about, like, GOATMAN and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when I went there, like, right when they said, like, that deer woman, I kind of laughed for a second. I was like, what the hell is that? And they started explaining it. I was like, whoa, that's kind of, it's pretty interesting.
And we actually have an art business coming on board, a couple of artists coming on board by the name of Zach and Kasani Faraway, and they're the ones doing the entire art series, and these guys are insane artists. We just looked at one tonight. They were doing Skinwalkers.
Man, they're quick. They're like, the second he asked, he already sent sketches. Like 2 sketches already. I was like, holy.
But we got an entire series coming out. We're starting on the 1st, then that'll be this podcast, Deer Woman. We're going into Little People, Skinwalkers, Goatman, Water Spirits, Stick People or Stick Indians, La Llorona, Shadow People, Spirit Tunnel, and that's a place on the Crow Reservation, anyways, and Ghost Cars or Ghost Trains.
Ghost Cars / Ghost Trains.
So the whole freaking Marcus never tells me about anything he's learned until we get to the podcast. So
he's like, research this, look this up.
Open a book, Cdale.
I know. And like right when we were like putting it up, he's like asking me everything. I was like, I'm not saying shit. I'm waiting.
Before we get too far ahead, the artwork that they're doing, is that going to be available for sale?
Yes, it is. Yeah. We'll actually have their artwork for sale on Stones and Bones at stones-bones.com, and they'll be able to pick up the art pieces. And it's going to be every episode will have a new art piece, and
to coincide with the with the podcast, with the folklore, legend, everything.
And the cool thing about it is we're not only selling the art piece itself, but we're also selling Zach's his outline sketches of the painting he's actually doing. So they can actually have the painting
stages
and all the stages as well.
Work. Yeah.
They're pretty cool. So Marcus, let's hear a little story about this deer woman.
Tell me about deer woman.
Molly.
More than I know. Don't go to the river at night.
Well, basically, like everything I got out of it is what was interesting to me is actually every story I read in every different tribe or culture, it was always the same thing. Like you'd think that it'd be different, in each tribe when they have their own stories, but it's literally the exact same thing through all of them, which was kind of interesting to me. But basically what she is almost like a I want to say like not a succubus, but am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Kind of like that, almost like a siren. But what she does is she preys on those that are unfaithful. Basically, almost like punishing them.
Yeah, weak-willed men.
Yeah,
lustful hearts.
Yeah,
and
like she
that
can
kind of
see
thing.
that, and then she just targets them.
Really?
Right there. And she's they say like a lot of times where they see her is at like powwows and like masquerade type dances.
No teepee creeping
like,
or snagging at the powwow.
But she goes to those places. They said actually the drums are what attracts her. So she hears the drums. And, she likes to dance, so that's why sometimes she'll go there even just to dance. Like you don't even notice her, or can even tell because she always wears a long dress. Like you can't see her feet, and the reason why is because her feet are always hooves.
Right.
That's the one part of her that doesn't shapeshift. So she shapeshifts. She's a shapeshifter, but she shifts into a woman, but keeps the feet. And that's kind of interesting about the whole Native American culture, because every time it's something like that, their feet are always hooves. So she's like one of it's always something like that. But she'll try to she'll go to powwows and stuff like that, and she'll find someone that she sees that is unfaithful. She can see that in them, and she'll try to basically entice them and lure them and try to get them to take her home. And when that happens, then she kills them. So that's where it kind of gets kind of dark.
Yeah. I get the feeling women started this one.
The story I saw.
This is scare the men.
You better not be snagging.
Better watch out for deer woman. What's deer woman? Don't let me tell you.
Oh, you don't know about deer woman.
You should know about this. But yeah, I was watching this thing, and there was a powwow in Oklahoma, and there was a woman dancing, and she was hooded, And it was actually the ladies that noticed the hooves. And then once everybody noticed this deer woman, she fled the scene.
Yeah, that's
And
part
they
of
had
it.
to, they like chased her out of the powwow, and it was crazy.
That's part of the whole like thing with her story is if you want to banish her, like if you think that she is deer woman, like in the powwow, if you think that person is it, you gotta expose her hooves.
Right. Call
And
her
if you
out,
expose her hooves, yeah, basically, and then she'll flee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I thought that was
crazy.
funny. So that's kind of
That's
interesting. That
creepy.
you kind of brought that up.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting that she's attracted to even the music, the like drums.
Yeah.
I know that with like even monks, they'll have this thing where they know they can attract spirits through sound and smell. So a lot of times what they'll do is they'll light like incense and things to actually attract those things to their temples.
Oh, wow.
So it's
Now,
kind of,
is that an effort to like keep them there to keep the populace safe, or
I think so. It's something like that.
no?
It's like part of their some of their ceremonies. They'll do that. They'll light the incense and
Mhm.
attract them to their temple or something.
What's crazy is there's a lot of these stories where sound attracts them. Like there's another story that I wanted to get into. Like I don't think it's really Native American, but I have heard stories of like from Native Americans that kind of tie in with that. Is the black-eyed children, and certain frequencies and sounds attract them too.
Right.
So it's kind of crazy.
They're always children that show up and they need some sort of help. you know?
that's just to get them in. They're almost like they act like how they say vampires. Like you have to invite them.
You have to
in.
invite them.
Yeah.
Could have swore we
her too.
came to talk about deer woman.
We'll get into that later.
Isn't that its own episode?
Just touching on this similarities is what I'm getting at. Yeah. You dick about it.
Something you can expect in the future.
Stay tuned for that.
If you see orphan children at night, don't fucking talk to them.
Don't open your door.
Don't do nothing.
We'll tell you why later. Anyway, back to this.
Yeah.
That was kind of like our whole theory about stuff too. Is we hear things growing up, but a lot of times it's like they don't tell you about why you can't look out a window, why you can't go outside or go to certain places, and tell you're our age and researching this crap
Mhm.
Right.
and doing a
You have to
podcast about it.
A lot of the reason why is because only medicine men or medicine women are allowed to talk about it.
It's interesting.
So you kind of get in trouble because you can, if you actually say the real name of them or something, you can basically conjure them,
Right.
and that is why. So we're probably gonna like piss a lot of people off with this one. It's all right. Like you know what? It's gay. Trying to let everybody know.
Right. If you listen to this podcast, Dear Woman's after you.
Be ready.
I think we
ask
accidentally.
to see your feet, fellas.
But yeah, like even like a lot of like the elders and stuff, like when everybody's going like powwows and stuff, and if they say if you do meet a woman, always look at her feet, like make sure you gotta check her feet. If you can't see her feet, you gotta try to at least see them to see if she has feet, because it might be like deer woman or something like that. But,
That's strange.
Yeah.
Like your grandpa was taken a couple years back. He didn't look at her feet.
the cheating bastard anyway.
He had it coming.
But yeah, like that. They said that's like the way to banish her is like expose her feet and she'll flee. And they say that the way she does kill you is she stomps on you with her hooves until you're dead.
Oh, that's
That'd be
crazy.
brutal.
That's just
Deer hooves are sharp too, man.
yeah.
And they say that she always comes in different forms too. I've heard stories where she's come as a woman, comes as a deer, and there's even one story where she comes as an old woman.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying about that. Like, what was that one about? The old woman?
This guy said he would always see her outside of his house, and he kept seeing her, but every time he looked at her feet or looked at her, she would just like prance off. Yeah. And then he goes to a bar, and he sees her there too.
She's like kind of stalking him.
Yeah. I was like, that's kind of strange.
If I
'cause-
marked him, he probably was a cheating bastard.
So it's like some of these stories, they are rooted around like all these like ceremonies or like powwows and things, but in this case he saw her at a bar, so she'd go in like urban areas as well.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, when I was a kid, it was stay away from the rivers at night because she would be down there and would try to seduce you and end up moiter.
That's crazy. Like I've never heard that one. Like by the river. That's different. That was something else
I heard
but-
about there's
This guy talks all loud. Anyway,
no, about like a hand, right? A hand that comes out of the water.
Oh, that's actually in a certain spot in
Washington.
Yeah, there's
It's
like
a lake.
Yeah, a lake. A hand comes out and freaking like grabs people and pulls them in the river or something, you know?
Yeah, like they say, like the story with that is there's this hand that would come out like at nighttime, like, and if you see it, you'll die. Like I don't know if like how you die or what, but we always heard that if you see it, you die. And so even people that want to commit suicide or something, they're always like they'd wait by that lake.
Right,
and
wait
to
for
see
that
that
hand.
hand to come out. Yeah. And like I don't know why I always imagined a big ass hand. Big old titan. I was like really looking for this giant hand to come out.
Right, and it's really just like the Lady of the Lake, you know?
All dainty.
Like,
I don't know why I imagined it like just freaking humongous, just
like a fucking throne.
Climb in.
But yeah, like that was kind of interesting. What's funny is my mom told us that story when we're on our way to Washington and we're driving by there at nighttime.
That lake.
Everybody's looking out the window trying to see this hand. Like, you know, you die when you see it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that comes with that is death.
Not the sharpest kids.
I know. It's like real stupid. It's like 12 of us looking out the window.
12 of you
Yeah.
out the window?
Yeah, we
Jeez,
traveled.
get
We
off
traveled
her.
in packs, all right?
School bus?
It was multiple cars.
Telling the story over
have
walkie-talkies?
I know. If you look over to your right,
Your tour guide?
Lake of the Hand.
But yeah, there's like always people there trying to see it, and yeah, they do. I guess they find bodies there.
That's
People actually
Wow.
dead there.
So it's like the Indian version of like that forest in Japan, the suicide
Yeah,
forest.
Suicide Force.
But
Yeah,
it's like the
that's kinda-
suicide lake.
Yeah, that is. That's
It's
crazy. I
crazy.
never really thought of that, but yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's crazy how different cultures all kind of have the same,
Their
but
spin on
different.
it,
Yeah, their own spin. You know?
but they're all kind of very similar.
Yeah.
Like yeah, like I was even telling him about like some of the stuff we're gonna get into. They were talking about like don't whistle at night. You ever hear that kind of story?
No,
You're not
I'm
supposed to
screwed. I'm
whistle.
a whistler, dude.
Yeah.
I
I'm not going out with
How
you.
do you think I came up with your piano part?
I was whistling at night, outside by the river.
Just begging for it.
I was also banging a drum.
This guy Nick just behind you.
Oh, this is gonna work for sure.
Dear woman. My wife's at home.
But yeah, there's stories like where you're not supposed to whistle at night. You're not supposed to look out windows at night, or stuff like throw rocks in the water at night. All like it's always at night. I don't know what the hell, it's always at night. But I looked into that, and there's even stories in like Japan and stuff where you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they tell you why. We'll talk about that later, but it's pretty cool, and like it even ties in with like the whole Stick Indians segment we're gonna be doing and all of that, and like deer women and stuff like that. So it's all like almost like it's all
Woven together.
yeah, woven together.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. So.
And that was that was kind of like our hopes too, is to find some sort of like string that just ties all these different urban legends together and why they came up
He's
with that.
lying. It was just random. We just pulled it out of a bowl.
So random. The philosopher over here.
Philosophizer.
Life is just a stream.
Well, like that, the having similarities in Asia and stuff. Like that makes me wonder how old a lot of these stories really are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 'Cause how many thousands of years ago did our people migrate over here? You know what I mean? And then all these years later, still have similarities between folklore and their culture, and then some of the same stuff in ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
Like, how old are these stories? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. That's pretty interesting.
Prehistoric folklore.
But yeah, I looked into that, and it was pretty good. I'm kind of like excited to get to that one. It's like it gets creepy, man. I was like really like researching it and listening to like podcasts like of other people talk about it, like looking stuff up online and finding these pages on it and everything. And it gets it
Gets to you.
Yeah. I was like, oh my god. Driving home at night, I'm like,
You have to go home and watch Family Guy to rinse your mouth out.
we were just talking about that yesterday. Like he never says like anything when we talk about creepy shit, and then like finally he started coming out. I'm like, and then he's like, "Yeah, I gotta watch Family Guy to make myself feel better so I can go to sleep." Like,
Well, it's crazy. Like we listen to like some of the same podcasts and stuff, ghosts and hauntings and that kind of thing. Like I listen to them a lot at work, and I work a lot of night shifts.
Yeah.
And I'll be off in the middle of nowhere by myself running grader, and like it's weird because like it gets so dark, like it's absorbing the lights, and like the machines I run, they're covered in LEDs, and you can see 360 degrees around you. And
how did that feel creepy?
oh, dude, and you're just out there in it, and like it feels like there's no light because you can't see anything.
Yeah.
And
You just reminded me of a story, and if I tell you, you'd probably think of it when you're out there. And so like I'm like, should I tell him this story?
yeah, but it's crazy. I mean, I'm 31 years old, you know what I mean, out there listening to a podcast, some British dude, and just getting spooked out like,
why do I do this to myself?
I gotta go to the lunch shack. You know?
Can somebody meet me at the lunch shack?
Yeah, there's lights and people there, you know, and it's
Get out and speed walk in. Get back.
Does anybody want to be task trained on the grader? Please?
yeah, please, yeah. Mechanic, you want to come check my cutting edges? No.
Hurry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll tell you later. I'll tell you that one.
So is there like any sort of like origin story to Dear Woman?
An origin story to her?
Like is it always the same across the board?
Yeah, like everything that I found, I don't know where she came from, but she was always there to do that. Like, you know, we would always try to lure unfaithful men away. I almost said something else, but yeah, like lure unfaithful men away and stuff like that, and basically kill them.
I bet if you were able to find old enough stories and stuff, she was probably a woman that had been cheated on.
Yeah.
And probably resulted in her death, and she come back to take revenge.
Yeah.
A deer ate her corpse.
Well, I mean, 'cause in a lot of history and stuff, you know, like in Native American culture and a lot of Asian cultures and stuff, animals and stuff were powerful beings.
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? And like the term demon, that wasn't always a bad term. You know, that was just a powerful entity.
Yeah.
And most of them took the form of animals. You know, so
Are you guys ever gonna do coyote?
Oh yeah.
Old Man Coyote.
Yeah.
That'd be
That's
a good
like the
one.
main Native American story I've heard. Is like,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of old man coyotes.
They even said like they'd always like they used to even talk back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
Like they like actually animals would actually communicate and stuff. And what didn't some like they started killing them? They used to only take what they needed. Like, you know, natives, they'd only take what they needed and, you know, give something back. And I think somewhere along the line they just started taking. And that's when they stopped talking.
Yeah,
They
started losing the magic.
Yeah, started losing everything. You know what's funny is looking into this, there was even one thing about Dear Woman that it just made me laugh when I read it. Was that if you scare her, like if you spook her tail will pop out.
Is she
So is that-
really?
Like when you spook her tail will pop out. Like
Is that another way to banish her?
Yeah,
or
like, it's
identify
another
her?
way to
If you can
expose her.
So is
spook
it
her?
like
Yeah.
is it like almost embarrassment? Like she's embarrassed to be in that form then?
no, it basically
Just the gig is up, or
she's
what?
probably afraid that they're gonna do something like try to kill her or something like that. So then she just flees. And they find out who she is, and then she just runs, goes and hides.
Because it almost
Like she
seems
shifts
like
back into an actual deer.
it almost seems like when you see her feet or you see something like that would be like almost flawed to like a woman today, then that's when she runs. Almost like she's embarrassed of like her form. You know what I mean?
Vain.
That's the only reason I asked.
I don't. Just all the ladies out there, if that's offensive, that's his thoughts, not mine.
And we're cutting this portion of the podcast.
Digging himself a hole, looking at us like, right, guys.
Everybody's everybody's like,
Everybody's like,
Stop.
where are you going with this?
Are you shaming Dear Woman?
Yeah, I know.
I think it's like a legitimate question though. Like it could be like she's embarrassed of that.
Oh,
yeah, I
form,
see what
you
you're
know I
saying.
mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like it's like her imperfection. That's what
Yeah.
you're saying? No, like a lot of like times where like somebody does shapeshift, there's always that part of them that stays
Identifies them.
animal-like. Yeah, it's always the hooves usually. Like they say a lot of times, like even like when people see the devil, like he has hooves.
Mhm.
He always
And
has
his
hooves.
tail too.
So does she have
Yeah.
horns too, or is it just deer hooves?
No. Yeah, she always has just hooves. Like
I,
if she,
I really,
mean, if
I
she,
really wanted her to have antlers.
That should be a buck. If she
like if you see her like probably out like
I guess that wouldn't make any sense
Yeah,
because
does
female
don't
does
have-
don't have antlers.
I was like, if you see her out in like her own, whatever. Yeah, I don't know, but if she tries to sneak into a powwow with antlers, that's kind of.
Yeah.
I was like, you really thinking that through, man?
No,
You would
I
just
just wanted
Just
the
walk
visual. The visual in my head's way better.
You just pick around and the crowd is
Yeah.
walking around
Yeah.
with big old antlers. Dear woman's here. She's there.
Yeah.
She's smoking that deer
That's
weed.
just funner. It's just
Shit,
funner
that
if she has
turns into
antlers.
Yeah, that looks cool. But, I mean, maybe if she's in her own form, like out by herself, maybe.
Like the dumbest thing in the world.
Look into the. Try to sneak into a powwow.
Well,
just
well, like
fucking
the
Those
rack.
don't have antlers.
Pictures
so,
I've seen of her online, she has antlers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
the one.
Oh,
on-
really?
The one I have in my
Yeah,
house,
yeah.
she has antlers too. That painting I have.
She has antlers in pictures. Even like when you look it up on YouTube, like the cover photo was like always a woman with antlers.
Yeah.
I remember there was this picture that came out in Crow, was it the Round Hall when it was still up?
Yeah.
And there was a powwow going on, and inside this photo there was weird like creatures inside there. There was this like monkey looking thing, or he was like a hairy
There was
thing.
even, remember Noob Saibot on Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, I think it's my favorite.
Did you? There was something like that in there.
Oh shit.
Like it was just a
Where
shadow
did you
standing
see the photo?
in front of like
It was
people.
in the Round Hall
like,
before they tore it
in
down.
the crowd standing there.
The photo was in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
round hall.
And
I wonder if
you
there's a
just- all
copy
you
of
could
that
see-
somewhere.
all you
I
could see
think
was
so
his
because I
eyes.
remember seeing it like
So it was like,
just a few years
I'm
back.
talking.
Maybe. Sorry.
I was like, hey,
here, man. Ain't me.
that's all I hear is just a fucking mess.
I'd like to see the photograph. Is why I was like, man.
All right. Anyway, go ahead. Good. Say what.
No,
the
you
hell
done
were
rent
gonna
it.
say. Go ahead.
It's done. It's
Get it out there.
Just get it out while you're
Because all they're gonna hear is a mess. It's a bunch of people bantering at once. But no, what I was saying.
Sorry,
You're wrong.
Sorry, Marcus. Sorry.
No. But yeah, like I remember my mom showing me that picture, and it was like everybody started circulating it around, and there was like it almost looked like a witch in there, and then there was somebody. He looked like that Noob Saibot.
From
And
Mortal
he-
Kombat?
Yeah, he looked like him from Mortal Kombat. Like all you seen was just black outline of a man. Looks like he was wearing a hood, and his face was black, and all you could see was his eyes.
That's nuts.
And it was creepy looking. There's always pictures like that going around, stories like that.
But this was taken a long time ago. Like it was like the old school flip phone days and
Yeah.
snapping
It
pictures.
Oh,
was
really?
like- yeah, it was actually.
I'm actually kind of surprised to hear that it was even that new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. And my mom showed me like the first generation smartphones.
And
It
everyone was
like-
sending it out that night that powwow was going on. Like someone caught it and just started sending it out.
Yeah, started circulating.
Really?
Yeah. Wow, that was crazy. I think it was one of her friends that took the picture actually, and then she sent it to my mom. And yeah, that's where I saw it. And I remember my dad even telling me a story. He said like sometimes those kind of things will try to hide around
Mm-hmm.
in places like that, powwows, masquerades. Even there's stories like skinwalkers being there. Like I've heard like skinwalker stories at like Crow Fair.
Really?
Yeah, even my grandma told me one about one, but anyway.
Maybe it's like because like the powwows and masquerades are so busy that they can kind of socialize but
Yeah.
not be like
Yeah.
shunned out right away.
Yeah.
And it's just that longing for fucking socialization. you
Yeah,
know?
like they say that the skinwalkers though are like witches. They're actually witches, and in order to be a skinwalker, you have to kill someone that's in your immediate family. So they have to do something real dark to become a skinwalker. So they're all.
I wonder,
dark,
because like and if there is these entities and these spirits and stuff congregating around Native American rituals and powwows and dances, masquerades, that kind of thing. I think because at least in this area, the Native Americans as a whole are really superstitious and
Yeah.
they believe in the supernatural and
Yeah.
and and those kinds of things. I wonder if that mass collection of the belief in it kind of gives them power and draws
Almost
them
like
to it.
Possibly.
conjuring it
Yeah.
in a way. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because I know when I was a little guy, I was always don't, if you unless you have to, don't acknowledge it, don't name
Yeah.
it, don't address it, because the belief in it gives it more power.
Yeah.
So I wonder, this mass gathering of a superstitious group, I wonder if that is kind of what draws them.
Yeah.
Is that belief
Yeah.
coming to recharge or something? I don't know.
Yeah, like they even say it's like yeah, they say even like speaking it or saying it or even saying the real name of these kind of creatures and stuff, it draws them.
Yeah.
So like that's why only medicine men or medicine women are allowed to talk about it or even say the real name.
Right.
You're like not even supposed to say the real name, like the actual native name for these things. It's like if you try to look that stuff up and find them,
You can't.
It's almost impossible to find.
Yeah.
He who should not be named.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like it's really secretive. That's why like when people try to come to like Native American people and ask them questions about these things, they're really secretive. And a lot of times you can even get in trouble for talking about it.
And that is where we come
That's
in.
where we come in.
Yeah. Hey. Hey, demons. It's your boy.
It's your boy.
Your boy. It's me, your boy.
But yeah, like that's what I mean. Like she's like Deer Woman is like drawn to the drums and stuff like that. So she'll make her way there.
Now with that Deer Woman, I wonder, cause like drums are the first instrument that were ever created.
Yeah.
And you can take this table and bam, it's a drum with your hand. And like there's
You can take your belly and just
yeah. And anything's a drum. You can
anything
create
you hit,
a rhythm with it, and drums are really primal. And like in writing music and stuff, I've read things where if you do your drums properly and run them in the right frequencies and stuff, you can trigger different stuff in people's brains.
Yeah.
And like draw them to your music and stuff, like dance music and stuff. That's a big part of why the dance beats and stuff are so deep, is because it triggers primal stuff and makes people want to dance and do that kind of thing. So I wonder if the being drawn to the drums is just that primal going hand in hand with the primal need to be lustful and mate and have sex and that kind of thing. I wonder if they're kind of tied together.
Yeah, that sounds
Right.
like a
It's an idea.
solid,
I'm just
solid theory.
I'm just spitballing over here.
You've done it.
I've drawn the connection.
You stumped him.
So unscrews his mic, drops it. Oh, that's funny.
That's what he's talking. He's like,
There's even a story.
I don't want to stump Marcus.
There's even a story. This one guy told he actually survived
Deer Woman?
Deer Woman.
Oh, really?
And the way it happened actually is it's almost like he offended her, and she tried to kill him. She tried to lure him away, and he was kind of for it for a minute, and then the last minute he said he kind of got a bad feeling, and he just told her no. Like she was trying to have him
do this.
take her home.
Yeah.
Kept trying to have her take her, and he was going to, and then he changed his mind at the last minute, and I guess he said she looked pissed.
Yeah,
And he said that she disappeared, wandered off. He got in his car and he started driving home, and he said he wasn't. He started driving home on this small
driving.
road.
So it's a recent account kind of.
And he said that this doe jumped in front of his car and stood there for a minute, and he went off the road and wrecked his car. And he said that's when he thought it was probably her. She was probably pissed off and tried to kill him. Wrecked him.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah, he said when she was walking off, he thought he saw hooves under her dress. So that's when he knew okay, it was Deer Woman.
Yeah.
And when he went home, this deer just jumps out. I was like, that's kind of too coincidental.
Yeah.
To be
to have that feeling,
Right.
and then almost hit a deer on the way home.
And
I'd have hit it.
Yeah. So usually
Let's just go ahead and put a stop to this.
I mean, if you know animals like deer, they're always sketchy. They're all sketched out.
Yeah.
They're and he said that she just stood there. Said deer didn't run off. If something's loud like a car wrecking, that deer's gonna flee.
Oh, it stayed clear through the
there
wreck.
and watched him.
Oh shit.
He said he crawled out of his car and it was just sitting there staring at him, and then
Creepy.
walked off into the trees.
That is
Yeah.
All right, that paints that a little different color.
That's weird.
Look, I got goosebumps.
It's pretty interesting. I like this topic actually. Like actually reading into it, I thought it was pretty interesting. But yeah, it was kind of the whole, like I almost thought like at first like, man, this is like sounds like something somebody came up with just to
Scare
keep you faithful.
Right, right.
Like, you know, try to keep them in line, you know, like tell their kids this so they're like, you know, they won't try to do that kind of stuff or stray.
Mm-hmm.
But like when you really research and actually look into the roots of this story, it sounds like it goes way back too far for that kind of stuff. It's kind of interesting. And how you're not allowed to actually say the real name of her and talk about her. It gets kind of crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of folklore and like the myths and legends stuff, there's some kind of morality hidden in the story a lot of times, and it'd be with Deer Woman, it'd be really easy to make that connection.
Even that La Llorona, there's like that kind of thing in there, like almost like a moral compass to these stories.
Yeah, something to be learned.
Yeah, and I guess like a lot of times, this story was told by the elderly women to the younger girls, you know, telling them the story for some reason, like why.
The La Llorona, she was like a mistress kind of deal too, wasn't she?
Yeah, actually, she. Yeah, what, you gonna say something?
Go right ahead.
I was just gonna say we should probably save that for the long run podcast.
We've touched on a lot of this
at the
stuff.
same time, it is still kind of on topic. I mean, you know, you have this vengeful, lustful spirit, and then you know later on in your mini series, there's an instance of again a vengeful mistress coming back. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they all almost kind of coincide in a way. It's kind of interesting how they all tie together.
And what La Llorona comes from 2,500 miles south of here, you know.
Yeah.
No, but actually, there's it's not just like in New Mexico or Mexico. There's actually like, you know, Mexico, Puerto Rico, like even like Portuguese culture, even Native American culture. This is one of their stories.
Really?
Yeah, but it's a different name.
Right.
So it's almost like worldwide. Like when you
Another
actually look
one,
into
yeah.
it's worldwide.
Wow.
And what's interesting is it's always the same story.
Right.
Yeah.
So where did it start? It's kind of
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what's interesting.
I think the version I'm not familiar with, but that I've heard before was out of Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Yeah, and there's actually this woman from Puerto Rico. She kind of told this story, and she said that it was an indigenous woman who she was. She was an indigenous woman, and the guy that came into town that married her, he was a Spaniard.
Right,
Oh,
that's
okay.
what I heard.
Yeah.
Too. And he was Spanish royalty.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and she
then,
was poor. Yeah.
And then they had a couple kids, and then when he found his real wife, he abandoned those guys.
Yeah.
And her kids were starving, and she was starving, so she drowned her kids.
Like I heard that she did it out of blind rage just to hurt him, like get back at him.
Right,
Like kind of took the only thing that she could from him.
right.
Because he has basically everything. He was rich. He married a younger wealthy woman,
Right.
and then just cast her aside and basically told the kids bye and ignored her. Didn't even bother saying anything to her and went off with the other woman. And then she goes and takes him to this river and drowns them because she was so pissed off at him.
And then
then-
she's always looking for her kids.
Yeah, because she ended up regretting what she did right away, and then she throws herself in the same waters that she drowned her kids in.
Right.
Wow.
And St. Peter won't let her into heaven because
Right,
unless she has her kids with her.
I think the story I heard is that she had drowned her kids and then was hung publicly
Oh wow.
for murdering her kids.
Yeah,
And
and she
then the husband didn't even know that his kids were murdered or nothing until she was on trial, and he like witnessed her hanging and was like, "Whoa!" You know, like,
wow.
"Oh, shit."
Yeah,
Wow.
I didn't hear that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, that's the version I heard.
Yeah, there's like always like it's always like the same
Yeah.
storyline,
Yeah.
but there's just little details
Yeah.
changed.
Right.
Yeah, no, it was she killed him out of desperation, wasn't it? Because she couldn't feed him.
That's what I heard.
That's
Yeah.
the one you heard?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, the one
They
I
were
heard.
they
she-
were
she-
starving and they were homeless, and she didn't want her kids to suffer anymore, so she killed them out
They were
of.
pretty much dying from
Yeah,
dysentery
mhm.
and stuff.
And there's
killed
some
him out of
creepy
mercy.
videos online about La La
God, I
Land.
know.
We watched it.
Actually cut some in.
We watched this
Stay
one.
tuned.
We're gonna put one in right here.
The creepy thing is I heard crying outside of my
Oh
house.
God, he
just
told me that
like
too.
maybe like a
After
week ago.
we're looking this stuff up,
And
I was
the-
showing him all these videos.
And upstairs with where Al lives, that place is like, now it's haunted as hell, but
It's horrible.
Now.
But I was sitting, me and Letha were sitting in our bedroom, and the stairs to Al's house are just like right outside my window, and then all I heard was like really long and faint,
Moaning.
but I can hear it from his stairs. It's coming out
Yeah.
the direction. It's like, what the heck? So I open my window and I'm looking out there because sometimes there's people sitting back there like in the alleyway.
Yeah.
So I was looking back there and I couldn't see anybody. It was like 2:00 in the morning, and then we heard it twice that night.
Oh, really?
And I was like,
Outside his door.
Both of you heard it?
like
Really?
all Alora's sitting on his stairs.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Where's my
Get your
children?
And it was funny too. It was like one of the nights where we actually decided on La Llorona as being one of
the
segments.
topics. Yeah.
I was like, we gotta do this. I started showing him like fucked
And
up
that
videos.
was part of one of the videos too that we seen online. Is this? They're hearing. There's one guy.
Yeah.
He's in Mexico and he's hearing crying outside his window too,
right
really
outside his
loud.
window. Screaming, crying, and it's like 2:00 in the morning.
Just wailing.
Yeah,
Wow.
and he was crying. He was scared shitless, and he said he went out, looked, and there's nothing there, and he's like, this has been going on for an hour,
Oh, jeez.
and he lays back down, and like you see, he's crying, man. He's like scared shitless, and then she starts screaming again outside his window,
Oh, wow.
and he started just going nuts.
But it seems like a lot of these urban legends are always rooted in cultures who have suspicions, or they're really, really religious, and they always
Mhm.
have these sort of spirits lingering around their culture.
yeah, like so you almost think like it's like thought conjuring.
I think that
the belief,
I think
the belief
it's
giving
because-
it power.
Yeah, I think that's because like especially Native Americans or even monks or people in, like Mexicans and things, like they all have their urban legends, they all have their ways of like doing ceremonies and things, but they're always attuned to spirituality.
Yeah.
So it's like almost giving them that doorway to those things
Mhm.
as well.
It's
Not only
already there.
yeah, not only good things, but also there are all these bad things as well.
But you think like the bad side of people would conjure those up? Like, in every culture there's like good spirituality and bad spirituality. Do you think it's those people on the bad side that actually brought those out in the first place?
It could be. I mean, I've always heard about stories and even all these authors writing about like demons and things, and one of the theories was that people who are having like temptations and things is they're pulling like demons out of pits in hell and things like that, and there's always stories like that. So like, is it possible that people's beliefs in these things are actually pulling these things out of like the spiritual realm into reality?
Right.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I think we're all three saying the same thing, it's just different wording.
We're agreeing with you right now. I agree.
Well, you know what I'm saying is
I concur. No.
Like, that's what I mean. Like, there's like good people, like bad people, like people like even say like good witches, bad witches, or good medicine men, bad medicine like men. Like, you think it's those ones that are bad that
we
are
actually
drawing
had
these out, like
someone that was back in our family who was supposedly
supposedly
a witch, or she
Oh,
was a
she's a
medicine.
medicine
She was
woman.
a medicine woman, which is like almost unheard of in a lot of culture.
Mhm.
And she would project herself to men. She's outlived, I think, like 3 or 4 of her husbands.
more than that.
And she grew old, and
She like grew like actually lived to be in over 100 years old, and when she was even like in her 90s,
Still pulling them in.
young ones.
23, 24, 25 years old.
What?
And they said that she had medicine or something that she would use that on men, and she would actually marry these guys.
They'd see her as the most beautiful person they've ever seen. So it was almost like a love spell.
And when
Wow.
she died, she made sure that the family buried her with her medicine because she didn't want nobody else to get it, and
Right.
because they'll be stuck with that.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is she started showing people certain things too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the bad side of these things, the bad side of that thing, the bad side of this culture, that culture,
Mm-hmm.
like the dark sides of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
She actually revealed that to some people, and that's what's like really interested in like all these kind of urban legends and
Yeah.
folklore and
Right.
everything in the culture, like the bad, like the more dark side of things,
Mhm.
is when it like actually started like researching. I was like, wow, it does. It goes deep, man.
Yeah.
It does. It's
I'm
insane.
sure.
The funny thing is, my dad has this really, really heavy, like it's like copper or something, freaking dresser, and it's over 100 years old, and
He still
just
uses
like
it.
just like maybe like 6 months ago, I asked about it. I said, "Where'd you get this thing?" And he told me it was from her.
It was hers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was like, "What the hell?" And she's
Like,
that's
Get it out of
crazy.
here. Hold it and bury it.
He has all this really nice furniture and everything, and then this really old, ancient, giant, heavy ass.
She probably kept that stuff inside of that
Yeah.
dresser.
Right.
And that thing is, man. Every time we moved, we had to move that thing. It was so heavy. It was heavy, man.
Like, what did you fill these drawers with? Right? Like, what the fuck? You know?
It's all empty. Just,
That's hilarious. Jeez.
yeah.
Yeah, she probably did. She probably kept that stuff in that dresser. Especially living. I mean, how long ago is it that she's
A long time ago.
passed
now.
away? You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
dresser may
Right
have been
after
that dresser was probably one of the only pieces of storage she even had.
Dear woman, she has been rooted in Native American storytelling for generations. Are there any truth to these storytellings? Is there any truth to her story? Or is she just an image of a moral compass? Why is it that woman in the beginning was so mad at Zach for painting this piece? Is it true that people who are rooted in the Native American culture know more about these beings than they're giving off? Why is it that they're so secretive about their urban legends? Is Dear Woman just a story? Or is she something a little more sinister? This has been episode 1 of Fallen Hours Urban Legends.